we have both decks coiled. Okay, the coils are burned in on both of them. They're firing simultaneously. Now we're going to wick them. This is TheGig. I'm Johnny O. We're going to do the Aromomizer Plus first. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to measure my cotton. It's 3 millimeters inside, 3 millimeters inside diameter, so that's what I'm wicking for. These are actually a lot easier to wick than the Altea that I wicked last week. This guy, because they're much bigger decks, much bigger vape tanks. So this guy is the hardest one. If you watched my video last week and you're confident on doing a tank this size, doing a bigger tank like this on a deck that you can remove like this is much easier than this little one. Okay, so cotton bacon. The reason they call it cotton bacon is because you can peel it off in strips. That's why they call it cotton bacon. So I've done this a few times. I know probably about how much I should be peeling off. And for this smaller deck, I can use one piece and cut it in half. For the bigger deck, I can't do that. Okay, so I know that that's about right. I know that that's about right. So what I'm going to do to make 2 even pieces, because you also want your cotton even going through your coils, I just fold them in half and I cut them just like that. I'm going to roll them and put them in those coils now. So just roll them like this. I take one end and I pinch it and roll it. Then I get the other end. You want it rolled down all the way because you don't want the cotton to get stuck in there. You don't want the cotton too loose and you don't want it too tight. Both are bad. So I know about where it should be. And if I put it in there and I find it's not right, I'll take the whole thing out and I'll start over again with another piece of cotton. That's why I have so many pieces in my cotton bacon bag like this. Okay, so this is rolled. I'm just going to quickly pinch off the end, roll the other one. Pinch it, roll. Roll. Okay, this should be good. I'm going to throw it through the first coil. Now at this point you'll know if it's too tight or too loose. That feels about right. Once it's in there, you don't want to pull on it because you'll separate the cotton inside of that coil. You don't want to do that. Second one, pinch it, nice and sharp point, and we'll throw it through. And I can tell when I pull it through, it's about the same as the other one. It's not too tight, it's not too loose. Too loose is bad, too tight is no good. So again, our portholes are a little bit different on this deck. I'm going to take it off here and show you where the portholes are. The juice ports are actually right here. You see them? One on either side of the coil. So our cotton has to be even, so I'm going to cut them to even lengths right now before I feed it through the portholes. All I do is I make sure they're even, because I want even cotton on both sides, nice even wicking. Cut them to the same length. Too much is always better. You can always cut them longer. I always cut them longer than they need to be. I only need to go to those portholes. I only need to go to these portholes here. But they're much longer. You can see. They're going to go well past those portholes, especially when I thin it out. See the porthole? It's going to go below that deck. Same with the other side. It'll easily go below that deck. So what I do for these, and I've had both of these leak, the reason I wanted to demonstrate these on camera is both of these tanks, there's a very fine line between leaking and being wicked properly. I found out actually 2 days ago. So right now I'm just going to take the very ends. I'm not gonna fluff it up too much, just a little bit, because I do want a lot of cotton on these. I'll explain why at the end. You'll see why once I prime it, why I want so much cotton. Okay, so this new cotton bacon prime, you don't have to fluff it as much because it's just so absorbent. And I know that the tension inside these coils is very good, so it's going to wick fine as it is. But I do want the very ends going through both of these portholes. The very ends. I'll show you why. There's one end going through. I go underneath and I actually pull that wick through. The whole thing. And it looks tight, but I'll loosen it up in a minute. It looks very tight. Yeah. Okay. So it looks very tight, but that's okay. We're about to loosen it up. I just want to get the cotton on all four sides through that porthole evenly, the entire cotton, the entire wick. So I go through and I pull it through. You can see it. I pull the whole thing through. It's tight right now. Don't worry. We'll take care of that in a minute. We don't want it too tight. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. There's actually too much cotton on this side. I am going to thin it out a bit, just like that. Thin it out. And take one end, feed it through the juice port on the bottom of the deck. Feed it through. Now pull it through from the bottom, so I know that the whole wick is going through the bottom. Nice and even. I'm going to do that with the last one. Feed it through. Pull it through from the bottom, the whole thing. That's pretty good. I'm going to pull them all through. This is what it should look like on the Aromomizer Plus, with your wick going through the bottom. We're not done yet. We still have to adjust it, but that's what it should look like. I'm going to go and I'm going to fluff these up like this with my needle nose tweezers. Fluff them up pretty good. And this is the loosening of the cotton. We're also loosening it up. We're going to thin it out quite a bit because there's a lot of extra cotton there on purpose. And I'm just going to pull that cotton through, fluffing it up, thinning it out. I'm going to do the same on both sides. So I got it nice and fluffy. This is the section here of the wick that's going to absorb the vape juice from the bottom of that deck out through the base. So this is the part that needs to be fluffy. Okay, so obviously I still have more than I need. I'm going to pull it up slightly from both sides like this and like this. Not too much, but I do have to pull it up on both sides. Okay, now that I have it like this, I know exactly how much cotton I'm going to use. It looks very uniform. Yeah, this is what it should look like. This is what it should look like. Looks very nice, actually. Very symmetrical. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take our probe tool, remember our probe tool, and I'm going to check to make sure in those portholes, in these portholes, that this isn't too tight. If it's too tight, I got to thin it. That's what this probe is for. This probe is perfect for that. Okay, so I've done this a few times, so I know what I'm doing. It's not tight at all. That pin slides through. Nice and easy. Very good. Okay, the last thing I'm going to do, I've fluffed it up. I obviously have too much cotton on purpose. You can remove cotton, you can add cotton. If you don't have enough cotton, you got to re-wick it. You got to wick it again, cut another wick from your cotton bacon, and re-wick it entirely. So I'm just going to cut this to just like that. So it's just sitting outside of the porthole. Just like that. That's one side. Here's the other side. Like that. You can see a lot of cotton on those portholes sticking out. I'm going to take the probe tool and I'm going to push it back in. I'm going to push it back in like this. And again, I can feel that that's nice and loose. It's going to wick perfectly. So, we are ready for priming. I'm going to throw this back on top of a mod and prime it. Doesn't even have to be tight, we're just priming. Here's the tank that it goes in, and this juice is here. So I have enough juice left to prime it. Notice I can work on the deck without the juice being full, without the tank being empty. The juice is basically full. I can pull the deck out and work on it without losing my juice or having to empty my juice or anything like that. So that's what I like about these aromamizers. We're just going to prime our cotton now, just like we did before. Doesn't matter if it runs down onto the deck, the cotton down there, the wick, is just going to absorb it. I'm trying to keep it on camera. Normally I would turn it like this. I'm going to turn it like this, and this is how I'll prime it. I go underneath the coils and I squirt juice underneath the coils as well. And when it completely covered, I go inside the coils, I squirt juice inside the coils. If the juice runs onto the deck, don't worry about it. The cotton blocking the juice portholes will absorb that. It'll just soak it up. This is cotton bacon prime. It absorbs a lot. Okay, we're going to leave that for a minute, and then we're going to insert it into the deck, or we're going to insert it into the tank. So I just want to leave it for a minute, and I'm going to pull it out, and I'm going to look at the bottom. What I should see at the bottom is the juice coming through those juice port. Yeah, so I didn't put any juice at the bottom, but the cotton at the bottom has absorbed a lot of juice. And that means it's running through the cotton perfectly. We're primed. We're ready to go. Normally what I would do, I didn't bring it again today, I would flash this with the cigarette lighter. I would flash it with the cigarette lighter very quickly, like 1 second, not even 1 second, just to burn off the hairs. Here's the tank we're putting it in. Now there's two notches. They're here. You can feel them. They're right here on the side, and there's two matching notches on the tank. That's because the airflow on the tank is side airflow. It's side airflow. So we want the side of those coils getting air directly from the side. So to do that, to line it up, you need these. And I can feel them there. So I'm just going to basically put it in, and I should hear it click. There it is. It's sealed into the deck now. It's sealed. I heard it seal. There's an O-ring there. Push that cotton over. Okay, now we're going to throw our base on. Nice and tight. Not too tight, you want to be able to get it off again. We're going to open the juice flow control, and we're going to flip it up like this. We should see the bubbles coming through. At this point, I'm going to wait and see if it's leaking. So we're going to put it on the side. Now we're going to do our tighten the same way. Off camera, I got the coils running a little bit better. I've also cut the cotton, and we're just going to run it through each coil, just like the smaller deck, but only bigger. It's the exact same design. In fact, I believe Aroma Miser basically invented RDTAs. They were the first ones. Everyone else copied them after that. So here we go. One wick is in. Same way as before. You got to roll it up. You don't want it too tight. You don't want it too loose. Okay, so this one is a little bit tight, but it's cotton bacon. So what we're going to do is we're going to peel a little bit of this cotton off so it's not as tight. That's why they call it cotton bacon. Just like that. That should be enough. That's about perfect. That's not perfect at all. I don't like that. Okay, so I'm going to start over on that one. I'll do another one in a second. We'll just use this one. I ruined that. That was way too tight. Like I said, if it's too tight and you've pulled it through and it's ripping the cotton inside of that coil, you got to pull it out and start over. This is perfect. I can feel it. That's it. So I'm just going to strip off another piece of cotton to replace that one that I just ruined. That's not enough. That's not enough. Okay, so that's too much. Okay. Okay, here we go. Try this again. That's not enough. That's about perfect. So I took two pieces of cotton bacon and I put them together. A little bit long. I'll cut it off here. Good. I just roll that up and string it through. You don't want to, the one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to pull it and stretch it. You don't want to stretch it through those coils. It'll burn inside those coils if you do that. There won't be enough cotton, there won't be enough juice. It'll let the temperature just go way up. The juice is what helps cool these coils when you're vaping. As you got nice saturated cotton full of juice, it'll cool down the coils. That's why the coils never get red hot when you're vaping. They get hot and they get warm. They never get red hot. Okay, this piece of cotton's also garbage. I didn't roll it properly. This is my last attempt. I tried to do this off camera to save you guys, but too bad. Okay, so here we go. Okay, about time. That's about right. I'm going to take the deck off, just like we did with the other one. I'm just using this mod to hold it up. So here's the deck. We're going to cut these to length, which is a little bit past the bottom of the deck. Is how I'll calculate it. So like that, I'll cut it just past the bottom of the deck. So it gives us lots of material to wick it properly. Just like that. I'm going to do the other side about the same. Because there's 3 coils, there's a lot of cotton material there to block those portholes. There's a lot. So I'm just going to push through the ends like I did before. For some reason, this cotton bacon prime, you don't really need to fluff it up. In fact, I don't fluff it up. It wicks better without fluffing it, without thinning it. So I'm just going to take the ends and put them through the bottom of the deck again and pull them through, just like I did before on the smaller deck. But there's 3 of them, so there's a lot of cotton to pull through. But you do want the ends of each of those wicks going through the bottom of the port. I can't get it through, so I'm going to reach up through the port and pull it through. I can't actually put it in, there's not enough room. Just like that, there it is. Now I can pull the whole thing through. So these 3 wicks are through the porthole at the bottom. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. You can imagine with these 3 wicks and the coils being the size they are, that's a lot of cotton. But you don't want to be stuck with not enough. There we go. We're ready. Okay? Remember, we don't have to fluff the cotton before we shove it in, but I want to get all the wick, every end of these 3 wicks, both sides, through the bottom of those portholes. So I take my time to do that. Now I'm going to fluff it up at the bottom and then cut it off to length, just like I did on the other one. So we're stretching it out a bit. Adjust the cotton. There's more than enough material there to block that porthole with these 3 wicks. So that's about how I want it. Before I cut it, I'm going to probe it. Probe each wick. Make sure each wick is going through and it's nice and loose. Okay, this end one, I can tell you it's tight. So I'm going to thin it out from the bottom quite a bit. I mean, it'll probably wick, but it won't wick as fast as the other two wicks beside it. So I'm just going to pull material off of it. Just like that. Just pull it off. I'm going to even it out. And check it again. That's it. See how I did that? It was too tight. I knew it was too tight because I used this tool. I'm going to check the other side. I'm also adjusting the cotton, like so it's not going over the deck. Okay, that middle one is too tight. I'm telling you that right now, I can tell. It's not going to wick very well. It's going through, but I can feel the tension. I'm going to grab it, pull it through, thin it out. There it is. See that big piece? It was sitting right on the inside of the deck. That's why it was too tight. It was stuck in there. I didn't see it. That's why it was too tight. So we'll check it now. Yep, it's fine. There was a big piece of cotton on the bottom of this middle wick on this deck that I didn't see. It didn't go through, but it was stuffed in there on the deck. That's why it was so tight when I checked it. Okay, I'm happy with this. I'm going to cut to length and prime. It's okay to cut these right to the porthole, because what happens is this cotton's going to stretch out. Also, what I do is after I cut it, it makes it kind of tight, brings all the fibers together, then you cut it. So I just loosen up the fibers on the end after I cut them. That's all I do. And even after I cut them, I always check them for tension. That cutting could cause tension. Now, that's perfect. Looks nice and neat, symmetrical, just like the other one. And there we go. Yeah. Yeah, well, I don't know. Okay, so we're just going to prime this, just like we did before. Again, with the tank has actually got a lot of, it's not full, but it has a lot of juice in it. But that's okay. I just turn it upside down, I pull the deck, and I can work on it. That's what I love about these aromamizers. So I'm just going to prime it with the same juice that's in the tank. I hit the coils first because that's really where we want the juice going ultimately. I want to get them soaking up right away. Then I hit the cotton along the side. Very easy, nothing really technical about this part. You just got to be patient and take your time. Take a few minutes to let it soak up all the juice, that's all. Okay, so give that a second. We're going to look at the bottom. Yep, you can see it. I want to leave it upright, but I can see the juice coming through those portholes on that cotton, so that cotton is wicking it from above. But when you're letting it settle in, don't turn it upside down. Leave it up like this, because gravity. That's why. Okay, I'm going to give it a second and turn it upside down quickly. Yes, the cotton is soaking wet on the bottom. It's wicking down. We have pretty good wicking. Now we're going to insert it into our tank. It's the same as before, but this one's a lot tighter because it's a lot bigger. The seal has to be better. There's 2 notches on the side of this deck that coincide or fit into 2 notches here. So I feel for them, I look for them, then I plan it. I can shove it upside down. There's the notch. I can see the edge of it, and I put that edge in there. There it is. I heard it snap in, and it's sealed. I can't see that O-ring, so it's in there good. Take some little juice, put it there. Now, with both these tanks, if this isn't wicking properly, I can come in here with this pin while it's still full, and I can push this cotton in and get it wicking better. And I can even pull the deck and work on it if I have to. So let's put this base back on, and we're going to open the juice flow, and we're going to see if it's leaking. We'll know before we use it if it's leaking. To finish off our little mini vaping series on coiling, wicking, building your RDTAs, we recoiled and rebuilt both our Aromamizer Titan Plus or Aromamizer Plus and our Aromamizer Titan. We coiled them, we wicked them. Last week we did our Altea. And just as an update, I was at a party on a recent holiday. At least half the people there were vaping. They were former smokers. And then there was the teenagers who just, instead of smoking, they vape, which this is a lot healthier for you than smoking. So that's actually a really good sign. The reason that they make so many different units that you can rebuild for cheap, you can mix your own juice, is because they don't want big tobacco to come in and take over this vaping industry. They monopolized the tobacco industry for a very long time, decades and decades and decades. They don't want that to happen. So a lot of these companies, they make it cheap to vape. You can make your own coils. The accessories are pretty cheap. One thing that I don't like, and something that has to change about vaping, are mechanical mods. Whenever you hear about the batteries exploding, I did research on this in the past week, the batteries exploding inside of a vapor, every one of those vapors were mechanical mods. Okay? Over the last 3 or 4 years, they started coming out with these variable mods. All of these are variable wattage mods, which means they're software controlled. There's been no explosion of any kind with a battery from any one of these devices. With the mechanical mod, you really have to know what you're doing. In fact, I think they should be banned. All the explosions, they go off like firecrackers. It's called thermal runaway when that happens. All of those have happened with mechanical mods. They weren't set up right. They didn't take care of their batteries. Whenever I have extra batteries with me, they're always in plastic cases. If I think I dropped one of my batteries once, it scratched through the plastic coating. I taped over it. I have one at home that I won't use. It's brand new. I won't use until I get a new wrapper for it, because part of the white insulator on top, the plastic insulator, peeled up yesterday. I won't use it. It's just the most dangerous part about these are the batteries. And the mechanical mods are very hard on the batteries. These are not hard on the batteries. There's lots of safety controls in here. There's wattage controls. There's voltage controls. If you put them in wrong, they won't turn on, this sort of thing. So there's a lot of safety features in these that mechanical mods that they don't have. I think mechanical mods are old school. They should be banned. They're dangerous. If you don't set them up right and everything like that, they're dangerous. One thing I do have to say is this Cylon, I am gonna contact Smoant and see if they'll replace this unit, or I'd be happy if I could send it to them. They replace the screen and send it back. I am not happy about this Cylon and the screen going. I've spilled juice multiple times over these other two mods that have screen covers on them. Okay, and never had a problem. Okay, for some reason I think that juice got inside here because this screen isn't covered. It's an okay. It's a quite okay, like as far as performance. 2-battery mod. It's quite okay. I don't mind using it. If they can't replace it or something like this, I'm going to be very irritated. I'll never buy another Smoant product again. Number one, I've only been using this about 2 months, and I only got 2 months use out of it. That's ridiculous. Okay, I'm very impressed with the Osmo F4. The temperature control on this is excellent. I bought it specifically for this tank because it's one of the only controlled mods that will support a 42 millimeter tank with no overhang. The only other one is called a Hammer of God, version 3, and it's a mechanical mod. And I won't use mechanical mods. They're dangerous. I just talked about that. This is the controlled mod, basically built for this tank. And with these control mods, they're very safe and take care of your batteries, and they're all very safe. Now, I do have to mention Old Faithful. Right here, this is my Onyx, my J-Well Onyx. You can see the construction of this. This is a really good, well-built little mod. It was expensive. It's J-Well. I bought it in China. It's from France, built in China, but from France. It's very good quality. It's all aluminum. I've dropped it a few times. Don't drop it, but I have dropped it by accident a few times without a problem. You can see the paint wearing off, but that just shows the toughness. It looks tough because it is tough. And this mod was failing one day. Actually, this mod is failing now. And I was working on this tank. I go back to this guy. This guy's always running. I wicked it last week on the show. It's still running. In fact, in between segments on this show, I emptied it. I was outside vaping on it. I can't vape in the studio. But Old Faithful, Onyx by J-Well with the Altea tank. I quit smoking on this. I had this for 2 months before I got another vaping device. I quit smoking on this setup, this tank and mod. And it was quite good for me. I could put different size coils in it. Obviously, if I was vaping hard, I would go through a lot of batteries a day and have to charge them quite a bit. With these bigger mods, they have more batteries, so you don't burn through the batteries as much. So they do last longer as far as vaping. So this one I needed, I think I had 4 batteries. I rotated all day, every day. And sometimes I would still run out of batteries. I had some Sonys because I would just vape it so hard and go through it. And it took it. I would put it on really high settings with lots of vape, lots of thick vape. So Old Faithful, that's the one. I'll probably always have that. I always vape on it. Every day I still vape on it. I have different flavors. I have one flavor in this one flavor in this one, and one flavor in this one. Unfortunately, I can't use my Cylon 2-battery mod right now. So if I want to use that tank, I have to throw it on my F4. Unfortunately, this little guy will not run that tank. It's too small. You need at least 2 batteries to run that tank. I like big tanks because you don't have to fill them as often, and I like mods with more batteries because you don't have to replace the batteries as often. I'm Johnny O. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave your questions and comments below.